There is one film John Wayne never liked to mention. Not because it failed, it did not. Not because he was bad in it, he was not. But because of something deeper, something behind the scenes, a clash that fractured a friendship and left a permanent scar on the Duke's memory. The film? A gritty 1971 Western that should have been a triumph. Instead, it became the one role he quietly distanced himself from. But what really happened on that set? And why did one woman, someone he once trusted, become the reason he regretted ever saying yes? Before we dive into video, please subscribe to our channel. Before he became the symbol of the American West, before the cowboy hat and the slow, steady voice, John Wayne was just a tall, quiet kid named Marion Robert Morrison. Born in 1907 in Winterset, Iowa, he grew up in a working-class family. His father was a pharmacist, but money was often tight. When John was still a child, the family moved to California, hoping for a better life. They settled in Glendale, where Wayne spent his youth playing football and doing odd jobs to support his family. He earned a football scholarship to the University of Southern California, where he studied pre-law. But fate had a different plan. After a serious injury ended his sports career, John had to leave school. Struggling to find work during the Great Depression, he took a job as a prop man at Fox Film Corporation. It was there that he was noticed by director John Ford, a man who would later become both a mentor and a legend in Wayne's life. John Ford gave him his first big break, casting him in small roles that slowly introduced him to Hollywood. Wayne's real rise began with the 1939 film Stagecoach. That role turned him from a background actor into a leading man. He was not just playing cowboys, he was defining them. Audiences connected with his tough exterior, calm voice, and the way he stood for something. Whether he was fighting outlaws or leading soldiers, Wayne became a symbol of American strength. For the next 3 decades, he dominated the Western genre. Films like Red River, The Searchers, and True Grit made him a household name. People loved the characters he played, honest, rugged, and unshakable. But behind the scenes, Wayne was more than an actor. He was deeply patriotic, openly political, and committed to preserving a certain idea of American identity. He believed in tradition, discipline, and strong leadership. By the late 1960s, John Wayne was not just an actor, he was an icon. He had won an Academy Award for True Grit, and he was producing and even directing some of his own films. But with fame came pressure. Studios expected him to keep delivering box office hits. Audiences still wanted the old cowboy, the man who rode into town and made things right. And Wayne, ever loyal to his image, did his best to give that to them. It was during this time that Big Jake came to him. On paper, it was everything he was known for: guns, grit, and a tough family man on a rescue mission. It even reunited him with Maureen O'Hara, the fiery actress he had worked with many times before. Their on-screen chemistry had always been electric, and the studio believed the film would be another hit. But what looked like a sure thing on paper would soon turn into one of the most uncomfortable experiences of his career. By 1971, John Wayne had already become a living legend. He was a symbol of courage, justice, and the rugged spirit of the American West. So when the film Big Jake was announced, both the studio and the audience expected another classic. The film had all the right pieces. It was a Western, Wayne's favorite genre. It had a powerful story, strong characters, and an action-packed plot. And it brought back Maureen O'Hara, one of Wayne's most famous co-stars. On the surface, Big Jake looked like the perfect movie. The story of Big Jake follows a tough and aging rancher named Jacob McCandles, played by Wayne. His grandson has been kidnapped by a gang of violent outlaws, and they are demanding a ransom. The film opens with a brutal attack on the McCandles ranch, and from that moment, the tone is serious and violent. The family turns to Jacob, an estranged and independent man who has not been part of their lives for years. Despite his rough past, he agrees to go after the kidnappers and bring his grandson back. Jacob sets out on the dangerous journey, joined by his 2 grown sons and an old Native American friend. Along the way, there are gunfights, betrayal, and intense emotional moments. The film tries to show the difference between old-school justice and the new world of modern law. It combines family drama with Western action and includes moments of humor, tension, and moral lessons. One of the biggest attractions of the movie was the reunion of John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara. They had worked together in many films, such as The Quiet Man and McClintock, where their chemistry was strong and full of fire. O'Hara played Martha, Jacob's estranged wife. Their scenes together in Big Jake were expected to bring the same energy and spark that had made their past films so beloved. But this time, something felt different. The connection was not as strong, the dialogue was colder, the emotions more forced, and the energy that once made audiences cheer now felt distant. Big Jake also introduced a new generation to the screen, Wayne's own sons, including Patrick Wayne, who played one of Jacob's sons. This added personal pressure to the film. It was not just another role, it became a family project, a symbolic passing of the torch, and a chance for Wayne to guide his own children into the world of film. Despite its promising elements, something about Big Jake did not sit right with John Wayne. He felt the script tried to do too much. It wanted to be emotional, but also violent. It wanted to honor tradition, but also embrace modern ideas. And in the middle of all this, Wayne was forced to confront his own aging, both as a man and as a movie star. What was supposed to be another bold chapter in his career started to feel like a difficult goodbye. John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara had one of the most famous partnerships in Hollywood history. Their chemistry was legendary. In films like The Quiet Man, Rio Grande, and McLintock, they lit up the screen with their strong emotions, playful fights, and deep respect. Fans loved seeing them together. They seemed like the perfect team, tough, proud, and full of fire. But when they reunited for Big Jake in 1971, something had changed. The warmth that once made their scenes feel alive was now missing. Behind the camera, things were not as smooth as they used to be. Maureen O'Hara was known for her bold spirit. She was smart, fearless, and never afraid to speak her mind. She believed in preparation. She came to set ready with questions, suggestions, and ideas. She cared deeply about her roles and wanted every scene to be perfect. But John Wayne worked differently. He was more instinctive. He did not like long talks about scripts or scenes. He wanted to shoot quickly, with little discussion. He trusted his gut and expected others to do the same. These differences became a problem. On the set of Big Jake, O'Hara's strong opinions sometimes clashed with Wayne's quiet authority. She wanted to rehearse more. He wanted to move forward. She questioned lines. He wanted to keep things simple. What used to be friendly teasing now turned into quiet tension. Their arguments were not loud, but the distance between them could be felt by everyone on set. Adding to the stress was the fact that both actors were older. They had changed since their last film together. Wayne was battling health issues and growing tired of Hollywood politics. O'Hara had been away from the screen for a few years and was stepping back into a world that felt unfamiliar. The energy they once shared now felt forced. What was once fun now felt like work. Even their characters in the movie reflected the strain. Martha and Jacob McCandles were supposed to be a long-separated couple who had never truly stopped caring about each other. But their scenes came across as cold and distant. The emotional spark was missing. Viewers noticed, critics noticed, and most of all, Wayne noticed. Behind the scenes, director George Sherman tried to balance the tension. He had worked with both stars before, but this time it was harder. The pressure was high. The studio expected a hit. The fans expected magic. But the set felt heavy. Every scene required effort. Every exchange felt like a negotiation. Even when they smiled on camera, the connection was not the same. Later, people close to Wayne said he felt uncomfortable during filming. He respected O'Hara, but he also felt frustrated. It was no longer easy. It was no longer fun. And for a man who valued loyalty, comfort, and control, that realization hurt. Big Jake was meant to be a celebration of his legacy, but instead it became a reminder that even the strongest partnerships can lose their spark. John Wayne made many films in his long career, and not every one of them was perfect, but Big Jake was different. It was not a failure at the box office. It was not hated by critics. In fact, many fans still enjoy it. But for John Wayne, the film carried a heavy feeling, a quiet disappointment he rarely spoke about. He did not hate the story. He did not blame the director. But deep inside, he knew something about Big Jake felt wrong, and that feeling never left him. One of the biggest problems for Wayne was the film's tone. Big Jake did not know what kind of movie it wanted to be. It tried to mix serious drama with light comedy. It had moments of deep family emotion, followed by scenes that felt like they belonged in an old-fashioned cowboy show. The shifts in style were confusing, and Wayne, who loved clear, focused storytelling, struggled with this confusion. He believed that a film should know exactly what it wanted to say, but Big Jake kept changing its voice. Then there was the issue of age. Wayne was in his 60s when the film was made. He had played strong heroes his whole life, but in Big Jake, he had to face the reality of getting older. His character was a father to grown sons. He moved slower, fought harder, and looked tired. Some scenes were edited carefully to hide his physical limits, but Wayne could feel it, and feeling old, on screen and off, made the experience painful. The film also became a symbol of lost control. In the early years of his career, Wayne did what the studio told him. But by the 1970s, he wanted more freedom. He had directed films like The Alamo and The Green Berets. He liked having a voice in how stories were told, but with Big Jake, he was once again just an actor following someone else's vision. That frustrated him. He felt like a guest in a story that should have belonged to him. Of course, the issues with Maureen O'Hara added to his regret. He admired her, but working with her on this film had not been easy. Their conversations were cold. Their scenes felt stiff. What should have been joyful, reuniting with a longtime friend and co-star, turned into emotional distance. That hurt him. And even though he never said it out loud, those close to him said he came home from the set of Big Jake feeling tired, disappointed, and ready for change. In the end, Big Jake was not a disaster. It made money. People watched it. But for John Wayne, it marked a turning point. It reminded him that time was passing, that some friendships could fade, and that even a legend like him could feel lost in a role. It was a lesson he never forgot, and it was a film he never truly forgave. Big Jake was not just another Western for John Wayne. It became a mirror that showed him everything he had been avoiding. The film was supposed to be a celebration of his success, a return to his roots, and a reunion with familiar faces. Instead, it became a moment of truth. Wayne could feel it while filming. The energy had changed. The world was changing too, and Big Jake forced him to face something difficult. He could no longer be the same man he had always played. During the filming of Big Jake, Wayne was reminded of how limited he felt as an actor when he was not in charge. The script, the editing, the performances, none of it felt fully in his hands. He was a man who had spent decades building a strong image, but that image was now being shaped by others. It made him uncomfortable. He knew that if he continued working this way, he would lose what made his work special. That is why Big Jake became a turning point. It pushed Wayne to think more carefully about the films he wanted to make. He began to understand that he could not just keep saying yes to every Western script that came across his desk. He needed to choose wisely. He needed to work on stories that still felt true to him, even if they looked different from the old cowboy tales. This was also the moment when Wayne started thinking seriously about legacy. He had been a part of Hollywood for more than 3 decades. He had played heroes, soldiers, cowboys, and leaders. But now he was older, and the world around him was moving fast. New types of movies were becoming popular. The audience were asking new questions. Wayne realized that if he wanted to stay meaningful, he had to adapt, not by changing who he was, but by choosing projects that reflected the man he had become. After Big Jake, Wayne became more selective. He focused on roles that gave him more emotional depth and stronger messages. Films like The Cowboys, 1972, and The Shootist, 1976, showed a different side of him, still strong, but wiser, older, and more thoughtful. These films allowed him to explore themes like legacy, mortality, and passing the torch. They were not just about gunfights. They were about life, regret, and the choices we make. In a quiet way, Big Jake helped Wayne grow. It was not the film he had hoped for, but it gave him something more important: clarity. He saw that even legends have to evolve. He saw that control over his work mattered more than ever. And he saw that time was limited, so every role from now on had to mean something. Big Jake may not have been the perfect film, but it woke up something in John Wayne that made the rest of his career more honest and more human. John Wayne was never the kind of man to complain publicly. He believed in staying strong, moving forward, and keeping personal feelings private. That is why, even though Big Jake made him uncomfortable, he rarely spoke about it. In interviews, he often mentioned his favorite films, his proudest moments, and the roles that shaped him. But Big Jake was usually left out, not because it was a failure, but because it reminded him of things he wanted to forget. Creative frustration, a fading friendship, and the feeling of being out of place in a changing world. To talk about it would have meant opening old wounds, so he stayed silent. He moved on to better projects, films that reflected his values and voice. For Wayne, silence was not a weakness, it was strength, and his quiet decision to leave Big Jake in the past spoke louder than any words ever could.